13, oh boy, we've got 13 best practices on how to make a professional webinar presentation. That is critical in these times. So number one is understand your audience. Who are they? What are they expecting? What do they want? And what do they need? Before you do anything else related to your webinar, make sure you understand your audience inside and out. Inside and out. Know what they want, what they expect. Knowing what they need, what they struggle with, and what their goals are will be crucial when it comes to planning your webinar. When it comes to planning your webinar, you have to have this first element covered, because if you're speaking to an audience of left-handed golfers and you're selling right-handed golf clubs, you've got a problem. Make sure they match. This is top of the funnel, crucial, important. So understand this. This is principle number one in marketing. Number two, choose the right topic. The right topic will help your audience overcome their biggest obstacles or educate them about what they need to solve their problems and needs. It also needs to raise their awareness and position you as the expert, which will enable you to establish trust and engage them better when you're speaking their language. Ideally, you want to offer your unique insight on a topic specific to the audience and what they want for their services. And a few good places to start looking for potential topic ideas would include customer support requests. The FAQ question is a gold mine of content that you can cover, and it addresses what they want. If you compile all the questions that are submitted to your help desk and you answer those in a webinar, you've covered yourself. Learn from your data, from your experiences. Replies, comments, questions by your social media follows also will assist you in designing and strategizing your webinar content so you address and obliterate any concerns or challenges or obstacles that they may have so they can buy from you. The whole goal of this objective with a webinar is so they can buy from you, buy into you, engage with you. Facebook and LinkedIn groups are also great in your industry. Google Analytics help based on your blog posts and understanding the intelligence of what are the most frequently requested questions, what are also the most commonly discussed topics. So you just have to be observant and answer those. And now the other, number three, is consider the format. You will want to consider and choose the right format for your webinar, because sometimes it may be single presenter format, like I'm the only one presenting in this video today. It could be a Q&A interview with an expert or a guest, or in some cases it may be a panel of people on a webinar who are asked individual questions from the attendees, or in some cases you may have a co-host. You decide which format suits you best and will connect best to the audience. When I run webinars, I typically run it with two people. There's a host, and I'm the presenter and or pitch person. And they are what we refer to in the entertainment industry is I'm the announcer and they're the color commentator. They're coloring in the lines, asking specific questions, sometimes already pre-existing questions, and it was already expected to be asked of me, or it can be on the fly based on what comes in live. You have to determine where your strengths are, and do you need somebody to interview you? Do you need somebody to be there for support, or can you handle this on your own and keep a crowd engaged for a full an hour, 90 minutes? I've been on webinars where I've spoken for 3 hours. Are you able to do that? That's an advanced type of speaker presenter. In some cases, the best way is to start with a co-host, an experienced one, to hold your hand through the process. The format will be dictated not only by your audience's preferences, but the complexity of your topic. If you're talking about something highly technical and you're just a good voice and maybe you're the marketer for the product or service and you need technical expertise, here's something you need to know. I conducted many webinars with a software development company. I was the pitch person, the designer, the architect of the entire system was on the webinar. What I didn't allow him to do was go down a deep rabbit hole of explanation, technical know-how, which would lose most of the audience. Most people want to know how to fish. No, they just give me the fish, feed it to me, that's all I want to know. Some people want to know all the science behind the fishing. That's only for a small group of people. So if you have a technical person on the webinar with you, control him or her, because they get passionate about the technical side. Not everybody feels the same, so watch it, be careful. The other thing is, if you're conducting a webinar, choose the right speakers. Be careful. This matters in my live events and in the events online summits or webinars that I put together. If you decided to have one or more guest speakers on your webinar, make sure that they are familiar with the format, the topic, they are schooled well in advance, because learn from my mistakes and avoid my errors. Learn from what I have done wrong so you can be successful. Educate them in advance, have a pre-meeting, because if they show up and say, oh, I've got this handled, and they screw up, guess whose fault it is? It's yours for not staying on top of them. Their expertise will be needed once your audience starts asking questions, but make sure that they understand your topic and what they're supposed to speak on, what your roles are in this particular webinar that you are delivering. So comment below if you're liking what I'm sharing so far as we continue. Number 5, save time with a slide deck template. I've created now almost 400 different presentations. I'm nearing that mark. And in many cases, I copy paste certain slides that I've used in other webinars, other presentations that I can use to save time. Now, I like to use fresh images whenever possible. Never use clip art. But you want to use a slide deck template for those of you that may be new to the craft, that aren't experienced at this. And I've been doing this a very long time. Some of you might be newer, and the fastest way to get from A to Z is using a slide deck template. When it comes to creating your slide deck, it's best to use a pre-made template and copy paste your content inside. This will be the way to get it done. The whole key is, don't be afraid of something you don't know, just do it. Maybe you need training wheels in order to ride the bike the first time. After a while you get used to it, take the training wheels off, create your own. But a fast way, easy way, is to have templates. When I started in this game, there were no templates. Everything was trial and error. This will save you time, and you don't have to start from scratch, because it can be an overwhelming task to create a presentation that will engage and connect with your audience. You have to think about the right words. You have to think about video. You have to think about the right images. You have to think about text. Oh, is this going to work? Should I transition here? Do I use black or white? What colors? What fonts? All this is going to be overwhelming until you get enough practice. So use templates. And if you're using graphs, know that too much will confuse an audience. Bullets will confuse an audience. Don't use more than 3 in a slide. I don't like to use more than 1. Some people will disagree. Find out what works for you and make sure that they can read it. Links to the best programs which supply easy to follow templates are included in the description below. So go into the description. There are software companies I recommend to use that will supply you what I've referenced. They are good, excellent at what they're doing to help the beginner all the way through the intermediate webinar presenter. The benefit of a pre-made template is they're designed by professional designers. So you don't have to think about all the colors. You don't have to think about the right fonts. Plug and play. Makes you look professional, at least semi-professional once you get started. And then decide on your branding assets. What colors are you going to use to stay congruent throughout your presentation, so when you present in another webinar format, oh, they recognize you. They see you again. This is called branding. Business branding, personal branding. whatever you want to refer to it as, but this will help you on your path of branding yourself and your product or service. Keep the slides short. Avoid the risk of the audience losing interest. I learned this as a TEDx speaker. I rapidly ran through my slides, maybe 5 seconds a slide, to keep somebody on the edge of their chair. If you stay on one slide too long, other than an image, if you say text after text after text, you'll lose the audience. Use graphs, images, icons, charts, and stimulate people. More appealing is better. Colors vary in and out. Great options are available in the description below, as I mentioned, to shortcut this process, templates that you can use and plug and play. Number 6, prepare a script. If this is new for you, prepare a script. Follow something in the notes section in your PowerPoint that you are the only one that sees. The audience does not see what you're reading, but it may be a way to make it easier for you. Some of my clients have found it nerve-wracking, like, how do I do this? Have index cards. It's another way to start. If you need to have a script to cue you, to tee you up to what to talk about in slide number 6, slide number 7, it's right there. It gives you at least something to start with. Not everybody is gifted with extemporaneous speech that can just run and run and run and go from one to the next. That takes lots of experience, many years, in order to rise up to that level of skill. I don't script. Everything is extemporaneous. It took me years to get there. So there's no shame in using a script. Use 3x5 cards or larger cards if needed right in front. Nobody will see it except you. It's an old school technique, but it works well. When I train professional speakers who are brand new, who are beginning speakers, to get them to the next level, I do encourage them to use a script. Maybe use cards. That's training wheels. You don't want to do that in a professional environment, but to first start out, start using cards and use a script. It will help you connect, and you will forget points if you don't have something to cue you. Complete scripting is good for those who cannot speak with bullets. Bullets is sort of the intermediate step, and some may just use images and talk freely, but if you just want a little bit of help, use bullets. If you want a lot of help, use cards and script the entire presentation. You have to determine which method is best for you so you are effective and you don't freeze. You sound natural, comfortable in front of the camera, the webcam, where you're being broadcast. If you're doing a live cast, it could be a fancier camera, and you want to look like you're not scripted. Maybe reading a script, a teleprompter, could be the place. Choose the right platform. What do I mean? Is it Facebook Live? Is it YouTube Live? Is it Webinar Jam? Is it GoToWebinar? Or is it Zoom? I tend to prefer Zoom for most of my webinar deliveries today. One time I used GoToWebinar for years. I've used Webinar Jam. I'm a little sketchy. I used to use Google Hangouts. That had a lot of technical challenges and delays. And YouTube Live has some other issues. Always check your Wi-Fi connection and have a backup presenter for you. I had a nightmare experience with GoToWebinar some years ago when I was going to be working with Russell Brunson. I'm a big name in the industry, and the Wi-Fi went down. I was living in Bali, and thank God I had a backup presenter, Peter Drew at the time, who was able to sub in, and Russell took over and took the presentation, and we did well, but I was supposed to be there during this webinar and I couldn't log in. And now this is what happens when you're in foreign countries on occasion. So always have a backup presenter. Peter was in Australia, Russell was in the United States, and the webinar was a success as we progressed. So always do that, and that was number 8. Number 9, do a test run. I asked to do a test run, and I did it, and it still failed. So go back to number 8, have a backup. Always do a test run the day before or a couple hours before to check to make sure that your technology is working, because this can be a nightmare and disastrous results. If you have a lot of work and marketing setting up a webinar and then it doesn't go off because you didn't do a test run, whose fault is that? Do not wait until 5 minutes before the webinar to do your test run. I recommend doing it the day before and the day of the webinar, like an hour beforehand. If you've got somebody that is on staff that can do the tech check for you, make sure your audio's working, make sure the connection is strong, do a test run, have a second computer as a backup always available. Make sure that you have an iPad, something with your presentation available, because if you have a crash, you can immediately jump in as another host, another presenter. 8 years ago, I was on a webinar with webinar swaps. The host, I was presenting and selling a software system back then, got on the call, introduced me, and left. He left the presentation. And I'm asking into airspace, hey, what do you think of this? I'm not going to say his name. As we're going through, no response. What do you think that did to the audience? The host wasn't interested. He was not on the call with me. He disappeared. He came in at the very end. No, I closed out the whole thing, introduced me, and disappeared. So make sure that you have an understanding with your host that they're either going to be on the webinar or not. And later I learned that that was just his style. He would introduce and disappear and go off and do whatever he did. Run a pre-event reel to the prime audience. What do I mean? You want to prime them to understand what you're going to present before you present it. Show a reel of testimonials before they get on the call. So if you're to start at, let's say, 10 a.m., at 9:50 or 9:55, run a 5 to 7 minute pre-event testimonial reel, which gets them framed, because there are going to be people who are early. The early people are the likely buyers because they are there and don't want to miss anything. They're the hyper responsives, the ones that will be your long-term clients and more than likely invest with you. And if you are able to push them over the edge before you even open your presentation, start flapping your lips, you've got a great pre-event reel, which is all about what you're going to talk about or the results of what happened with previous clients. You will sell and convert much better. Record the event. Record it well. Not only, let's say you're using Zoom, there's a record function. You can record to the cloud, or you can record the MP4 and download it to your desktop later. I always go to the cloud because then I just copy paste the link and send it off to whomever needs the recording. If I promise the recording to a Facebook group where the members are there to listen and consume it later, that's fine. Or some people that can't get it, but I pay the extra with my subscription with Zoom to record to the cloud. Also, record it, if this is a training, with quality video, because you can then use it and repurpose the content either for Instagram, Facebook posts, YouTube videos. You can pull out B-roll elements of this, and if you record it, why do double work? If you record it well during your webinar delivery, you can use that to create quality videos later. Professional presenters always review their results, meaning when you record it, not only is it usable content to be repurposed, you get to review and critique yourself, because there's no harder critic of your material than you. I will look at this video that I'm creating today and critique myself so I can improve again and again and again. Improvements will follow, guaranteed, when you review your presentation. Use a webcam so you can see how you are, as opposed to just the little camera that's on your computer. Use a webcam so that it's got a greater aperture, a greater view of you, because there's a human connection today. In the past, when webinars first came into life, let's just say were exposed to the marketplace, there were no visuals of the presenter. It was strictly the presentation itself. The PowerPoint played, or you talked into the camera. Today, you can play PowerPoint, and your presentation can be scrolled through by the attendees, and your face is there to connect. This is a massive improvement because they see it's a live person versus something that is canned. And you'll connect much better with the audience when they see you. Always have warm water. I have next to me a glass of warm water to keep my tonsils lubricated, my voice box lubricated. Do not drink cold water, sodas, or coffee, because that doesn't work. Warm water is the ideal beverage to have with you for a long webinar presentation, because cold water freezes your vocal cords. Warm water within arm's reach, and there's no problem to take a pause to drink it. And also, when you stand up, I'm standing during this video today. I could do it seated, and it would have a different level of energy. Then when you're standing up, your whole body has greater energy to communicate your message than seated presentation. So when I go into the close during a webinar, the last 10-15 minutes, when I'm asking for money from the people that are on the call, inside my presentation, I stand up, my energy level lifts, and I'm able to get a little bit louder, speak a little bit faster, and it's easier when I'm standing. So stand up when you get into the close, the Q&A session. Your energy level shifts. You want to raise their energy because they've been sitting with you for an hour, 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours, however long your presentation is. Shift the energy, rise up, and you will have greater results. Your beginning and ending is what people remember most, and the lasting impact. Energy levels while seated will dissipate, so make sure you stand up. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please comment so we can respond and engage with you directly. Sharing this video is always appreciated, and be sure to check out the resources section below in the description area. The description just below will have all the resources that we recommended for you so you can improve in your webinar delivery and profit better. See you in the next video.